finding the surface area of cubes and cuboids. The first, let's tackle the cube. So here, we know a cube has 6 sides and every single one is exactly the same. So if I can work out the area of one side, I can just times it by 6 to get the total surface area. In this case, let's focus on this side. It's x tall and x wide, so the area of that side would be x times x, which is x squared. Okay, and as I said there's 6 identical square faces on a cube. You can think about a die if you need to. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 sides. So there's 6 times x squared for the surface area. So in summary, it's 6x squared. You could easily add an example into this. So for example, if I make x 2, then the surface area of a cube with side length 2 would be 6 times 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. So this reduces down to 6 times 4. 6 times 4 is 24. And then of course add whatever unit. So it could be centimeters squared, meters squared, etc. The surface area of a cuboid is a little bit more difficult just because you've got 3 pairs of different sides. The issue is here, you can see that this side is not the same as this side, which neither are the same as this side. Okay, so what we need to do is work out the area of this side, the area of this side, and then the area of this side. And then nicely, we know that there's 2 lots of each of those, because if we're talking about this side, then the side over here on the left would be the same. If we're talking about this front side, then the back that we can't see would be the same. If we're talking about the top, then the bottom would be the same. So looking at the front, it's x tall and y wide. So the area of this side will be xy. So there's one side. Then if we look at this side over here, it is z wide and x tall. So it's going to be xz. And then finally the top, it's not immediately obvious, but we know that this side will be the same as this, so we know that that's y. And the depth of the cuboid is the same as here, so we know that this is z, so it'll be yz. So adding all of these up, you'll get xy plus xz plus yz. But remember, there's 2 lots of each of these, because the top, of course, there's a bottom which is exactly the same. The front, there's a back which is exactly the same. And the right-hand side, there is a left-hand side that's exactly the same. So just times this by 2. And then that will give you the surface area of the cuboid. The surface area of a cone is a little bit tricky, but you can split it into 2 parts. You could imagine it as the base here, which is just a circle. And we know the area of a circle is just pi r squared. Then we could imagine this sort of curved bit that wraps around. This one's going to be really tricky to sort of derive what the answer is going to be. However, we can deduce that it ends up being pi r l. So r is the radius, remember. Pi is just the constant, 3.14, and etc. It carries on forever. And then l is this slant height here. So the total surface area, you just add these 2 together, pi r squared plus pi r l. The surface area of a cylinder, again, can be a little bit tricky to spot what you need to do, but let's focus on the shapes that we can deduce. So clearly the 2 ends are circles, so it's going to involve pi r squared somewhere, but how can we work out the middle bit? Well, the middle bit, if you think of origami, if you wanted to make a tube, you've effectively got a rectangle that you've rolled up to make a tube. So we could split this shape up into its net, which is something a little bit like this. So you can see there's 2 circles and then a rectangle in the middle. So if we can work these out individually, the rectangle, the 2 circles, then we just need to add them all up. So the circles, we should know that those are pi r squared for each one, and there's going to be 2 lots of that. So it's going to be 2 pi r squared. Then the rectangle in the middle, it's not immediately obvious. Obviously, we know the length of it, that is just this here, but we don't know the width of it. So the width is just the distance around the circle, isn't it? Because it spans all the way around, which is the circumference of the circle, which, as we know, is 2 pi r. So to work out the area of this rectangle would just be 2 pi r h. So the total surface area of this cylinder would be 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, which if you really wanted to, you could factorise this slightly to 2 pi r plus h. This bit isn't necessary, but it might make it a little bit easier for you. So the surface area of a sphere, there's no real tricks, you just need to remember the formula. The formula is 4 pi r squared. Okay, so for example, the radius here, we're not told it, but let's say it's 2. We could sub that in. You do 4 pi times 2 squared. Well, 2 squared is 4, so this becomes 4 times 4 pi, which is 16 pi. Of course, you could actually work this out, or you could leave it in terms of pi. Totally up to you. Don't forget your units on the end of either centimetres squared, metres squared, etc., whatever unit you're working in. If I make this centimetres, then our answer would be centimetres squared because it's an area. If you found this video useful, why not try the Topic Examiner learning platform? Here you can answer a series of questions and get instant feedback on how you've done, both in a written format and a video solution format. So you can see here there's a typed explanation, and then if you're still unsure, you can watch the video where an expert will talk you through exactly how to solve the problem.